McElroy and, excuse me, Cubelic in the morning. Thursday, August 27th, 8 a.m., right here on Jocks, as we get a little bit closer to week 0. It begins for the FCS tonight. One thing we did not hit on today, Thomas Castellanos has signed with Texas Tech. We alluded to this yesterday. Greg said it was possible, feasible, but now it is actually done. How much does he help? How much does he realistically contribute to that team this year?
I think it's good depth piece, especially knowing that maybe you're a touch thin at quarterback, given where you invested with Sorsby, him being gone. You got Hammond back. He's coming off a knee. Maybe you want to incorporate some quarterback run. I mean, let's be real. Thomas Castellanos is a dynamic player. I don't know if I want him as my every down guy because you're going to have some real highs and lows in his performance, but you get him on the wrong day or on the wrong play or on the wrong sequence, like you got some problems. You got your hands full defensively. So I like the ad. I think it's a low-risk ad. I'm just curious if the Big 12, what the interpretation will be like when it comes to this pros returning to college ruling, because he was undrafted, went to rookie tryouts, but never actually got asked to sign. So I don't know if that would be prohibitive or how the interpretation will lead to.
It's and it still could fluctuate and be just a little bit different inside different leagues, depending on the details that are involved in the rules that are laid down, because it might not be the same as the SEC, Big 10, Big 12, like you said. It could be a little bit different in some other places. All right, let's go to some win totals inside the Southeastern Conference. Do you want to be a part of this conversation? 205-834-9450, 205-834-9450. You can call or text into the show and give us some thoughts. I think we start towards the top. Georgia and Texas are both at 9.5. When you look at this Georgia team, which we have talked about a lot, and then you take their schedule, where realistically you think they end up when you talk about that win total, Greg, being 9.5? Tennessee State, Western Kentucky, at Arkansas, Oklahoma, Vandy, at Bama, Auburn, at home, Florida and the Benz, at Ole Miss, Missouri, at South Carolina, Georgia Tech. Over under 9.5 for the Dogs.
I like over. Answer me this. Where are the slip-ups? Where are the tough ones in your eyes? Like, don't get me wrong. At Ole Miss tough. In Tuscaloosa tough. Like, do they get a split there? Do they lose both? Like, where are the slip-ups? Give me the banana peels.
I mean, Oklahoma's always tricky because of how that defense operates. You get it at home. It's early. They advantage Oklahoma maybe because that's when we know they're going to be healthy, and it could be a problem for them later in the season. The other question mark, too, is I think this could be a massive advantage for Georgia is what's the health of some of the teams that could turn into those teams, albeit Florida, Missouri, South Carolina, Georgia Tech. Those are teams that we could all see maybe turning into dangerous clubs, but you also get them all from Halloween and later, which doesn't work in their favor, more than likely, because they're not going to have the depth that a lot of other teams are going to have. So could South Carolina be that team late? Yeah, maybe. If the offensive line's healthy and it's much improved and Kendall Browse and Lenore Sellers are rolling, Nick Harbor a little more consistent, there's some things that could lead you to believe that. Missouri, if Ahmad Harvey's ripping, I mean, that outside zone can neutralize some things from a defensive front that they'll probably be outmanned against. I don't feel as good about the Missouri front seven this year as I would have last year. And then, Georgia Tech, if Mendoza's that guy and, you got an offensive line that physically can maybe hold up a little bit with what you're going to be able to do, possibly. Florida, I think, just talent-wise, is going to be a headache for everybody. But there doesn't feel like the definitive, okay, this one really could be a problem more times than not for Georgia on that schedule.
I think the thing for Georgia is if you're going to beat them, and this is the case, when was the last time someone won a grinded-out game against Georgia? I mean, South Carolina 7 years ago.
Yeah, when Javon Kinlaw took over. Yeah.
Yeah, and Georgia turned it over 3 times. I think it was Jake Fromm in 2018. It's been a while, right? So all things considered, I think the only way that you get Georgia is by being able to light up the scoreboard. And I think there's a couple teams that are capable of doing that. I think Alabama's capable of doing that. I think Ole Miss is capable of doing that.
Oklahoma.
I think Oklahoma can.
Capable.
I think they're capable. I got to see it. You know what I mean? Like, I haven't seen them be super dynamic offensively in a while. I think it's in there. I think it's certainly capable. So those would be the three. I also just have a tough time always envisioning Georgia losing at home. I know it happened last year, but it's still a hard thing to predict. So I'm going to take the over there. But the number is scary, I will admit. It's scary. I think anything double-digit wins for SEC teams is scary, given the way things schedule out this year.
Yep. All right. It's an over for me, John. 9.5 Georgia Bulldogs.
My gut said under. Before you said the total, I said I figured it'd be about 9 or 10, and when you said 9.5, I still think they probably make the playoff, but I'm right now. I'm feeling under.
Wow.
I mean, not much. I know Kirby Smart thinks they're going 7-5. I don't think they'll fall that far, but I felt it was a 9-3, not a 10-2.
All right, so that's 1 under, 2 overs. I'll take the over as well. Texas is also 9.5. Is this an easy over for you, Greg?
It's not an easy over because of Ohio State and the non-con, but if they get that one, which I think they'll get, I think they're going to get that one. I don't know. I just have a good feeling about it. Getting Sark twice, I think, is a difficult task. And if you look back, I watched that game recently, probably about a week ago. There were so many missed opportunities in that game. Texas had guys open. Texas had opportunities and just couldn't quite seal the deal. So I think Texas gets that one, even though I love Ohio State this year. So I lean over because I'm favoring the Horns in that game. And then the other tricky games, there's a few. I think Tennessee's a tricky game. I think there's a handful of hard. I think LSU's a tricky game. I think there's a handful of tough ones. I like over, but I'm not. I feel better about Georgia going over than I do Texas.
Okay. I'm with you on that one. Let's go through some of those. What are the what-if games on this schedule? Like you look at is it at Tennessee? Oklahoma, obviously, we know Red River, what that's going to be.
Sure.
We know what Florida has looked like against them in recent memory. Ole Miss could be tough. That's a really good defensive line if the offensive line problems aren't repaired. At Missouri late, is that a tricky one? At LSU, how concerned are we there? At A&M late? I'll tell you, the one thing that I don't like about the Texas schedule is 3 out of your last 4 on the road.
That is tough.
Specifically when 2 of them are at Kyle Field and Tiger Stadium.
No doubt.
That is nasty.
3 out of 4 on the road and the one at home, it's their Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So you have 4 ramp-up games in a row.
And one of them a potential weather game that could be not conducive to how your offense operates a lot of times.
Yeah, but there's questions on Missouri's defense. I don't know. That's my biggest holdup. Like, if it becomes a track meet, which side do you favor? And I have a hard time favoring Missouri in a game like that, even though it is up there in Como.
I can't find a way to truly go under here. I can see him dropping 2. I can't see him dropping 3. I'll take over 9.5, John.
You like him against Ohio State?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too.
Same here. I don't see them going 9-3. Not 10-2 feels almost like worst case scenario. Yeah, I go over.
So you're over, Greg?
Yes.
All right, so there we go. Unanimous over for the Texas Longhorns at 9.5 this season. Alabama's at 8.5. I don't really feel like we need a lengthy conversation about this from you, G-Mac. You've talked about how your momentum personally is building for Alabama. Your confidence is growing. We know Keelan Russell's now starting quarterback. At Kentucky early feels a little tricky. We know what happened with Florida State last year. You go to Davis Wade, which, by the way, on fbschedules.com, they have that listed as the battle for Highway 82.
Ooh.
Really?
Never heard that in my life.
Trophy game.
If it's not a gold embossed Rand McNally road atlas, then we're wasting our time. Or like a gold plated Garmin.
Oh yeah, that's
nobody uses it anymore.
With an A2
That'd
on
be
it.
a good, or like one of those like radar detectors. We could do one of those.
Golly.
It'd be good.
The guy in Monsters of God had one in his truck we were watching. It was on the more recent footage. He had this big jacked up truck and he had the radar detector in it. And I'm like, God, those things don't work anymore, man.
Come on.
Police have got some technology that can work around that. All right, so we know South Carolina, Georgia's on the schedule. At Tennessee, always a big one. Third Saturday in October. A&M at LSU, at Vandy, late. Auburn. I mean, do you see potentially 4 losses here, which is what it would take to go under this?
I don't. I mean, I've been pretty bullish for a while. I think they can get to 5-0 for sure. I don't think the first 5 games are as easy as everyone else is saying. Like, I think at Kentucky's tricky. I think Florida State's tricky. I think South Carolina's tricky. I still think they're a 5-0 football team with Georgia coming to town. And I think that's a coin flip game like it usually is, even though it wasn't in the SEC championship game last year. I think at Tennessee be a big indicator. I think I lean Bama there, but there are some questions. I think Tennessee has a chance to be dangerous. I've maintained that. It's always a hard place to play regardless of where Tennessee's at. A&M, too many question marks up front defensively and offensively to know exactly what they are, and it's in Bryant-Denny. Kalen DeBoer has had LSU's number the last couple years. I don't know if that consistently sustains, but offensively, like, they've been able to score. Granted, totally different offense that they'll be having to defend, and we haven't seen Kane Womack defend this style of attack in the past, or at least not recently. At Vandy will be a little bit tricky. That's a hangover potential. I'd be careful there. And then Auburn at home. So, yeah, I comfortably like the over. I think the Tide schedule is among the more manageable schedules in the SEC. Not that any are easy, but I think it's a little more gettable than some of the others that we'll look at over the next 30 minutes or so.
Like, here's the thing about this schedule. We talked about some of the teams for us, and I'm not saying that both of us agreed on all these that are trending down a little bit right now in our minds, maybe compared to the public. Texas A&M was one of those. Tennessee was one of those. LSU could fall into that category for some people. Like, they're not a lot of teams.
Vandy's one of those compared to where they were last year.
Correct, but as I've stated, they're not going to completely vanish.
No.
Outside of Georgia, I don't think there's another team that you can find just a boatload of confidence that, yeah, they can realistically, they're probably going to get Bama. Because, like, you brought up LSU. That one's dangerous. And there's some of the news yesterday, Luke Metz getting the start at linebacker. Like, that's a group that's an important game against because of all the movement, the split zone stuff, the different way they handle the run game, the RPO nature of it, formationally, tempo. Like, linebacker really important in that game. So, but that doesn't mean that I think automatically LSU's got a better chance to win for sure. There's a lot of other things that factor into that game. I don't see any way they're under 8.5. I think it's stealing money.
I think it's a game low. If it were at 9.5, I think
it'd be a fun conversation.
It'd be a lot tougher for me. I still think they're a 10-2 football team, but I think 9-3 is possible for even the best teams in the sport this year in the SEC.
Yeah, there's some things that would have to fall apart to get to 8 wins, in my opinion.
I don't know if we're doing all 16, but this is the easiest lock of all of them. Over.
Wow.
Over. Please.
Okay. Easier than LSU at 8.5. Some people might say it's an easy one.
That line is begging you to take the over.
Yeah.
They're begging you. They have as much hype as anybody. I think you have a tougher game week 1 than people realize. I think the road game at Ole Miss, that's a must-win for Ole Miss. That will be an emotional coming back home against A&M in defeat. If they lose that game at Ole Miss, I mean, you could realistically start the season 2-2, and you're halfway there. So I think the Auburn game on the road's a tricky one. I think Alabama at home's tough, Texas tough, on the road at Tennessee late after Texas. Like, there's some real potholes on this schedule. I lean over. I think they're 9-3, but man, I feel like I'm on the public side here big time.
We don't know exactly what the Clemson game is going to look like. We know what Ole Miss is going to mean. Magnolia Bowl is going to be off the everything this year. I actually favor, if you just talk matchup, I kind of like LSU in the A&M matchup right now. Just schematically, what it is, strengths of teams, what they appear to be. Like, I call them conflict games a lot of times. Like, I'll think of a random one and throw it out. Like Missouri against Oklahoma. Because everything Oklahoma's going to give you up front and how Missouri handles the run game, like, I think that's a conflict game for Oklahoma. Because they are built to be able to manage what you do really well. Some of the things. Like, I don't see a lot of conflict games here for LSU, truly. I mean, there's some games I don't like them in. Don't love them against Alabama. Don't necessarily love them against Texas. But, I mean, Texas in individual games over the last few years has had some issues with certain run schemes. And if the Texas offensive line is still allowing free runners at the quarterback and missing pickups, that's not the defense you want to be doing that against.
No.
So, that could be a problem. And Tennessee, if they get above average quarterback play, has an offense that can neutralize what they're going to want to do defensively. So, I would have to go over here. I have to.
You have to.
And feel like I've been leading the charge of like we're way ahead on LSU. It's just the opponents. There's not enough opponents that offer up enough for me to say, yeah, that's not it. Bama, Texas, Ole Miss will be the teams I look at and say, problem. A&M, potential problem. Do I love the fact that you play your last 2 games on the road? No. At Kentucky, at Auburn, going to be easy? No. But, maybe that's the other thing, Greg, too, is like they at times have looked very different on the road.
True. Totally true. I would also say this, though, as it relates to LSU. I don't think Lane will make too much of the Ole Miss game either. Like, do you think Lane? Because I think for Ole Miss that's a must-win, just for the court of public opinion. Hey, we're still here. Like, I think there will be a strong response if they lose that one at home, right? And that would be a poisonous loss. Meanwhile, if Lane loses it, I don't think it's like a backbreaker in the same sense. Is that a fair estimation? So I feel like Ole Miss's season more rides on that game than LSU's. So if LSU can go in playing maybe a bit more free, steal it, and next thing you know, they're 3-0, going home to welcome A&M to their building, an A&M team that got the best of them in a bad way last year, then I think that then you're starting 4-0 potentially, and all right, now you're off and running. 5-0 with McNeese. You're at Kentucky, like you there. Now you're 6-0. State coming to town. You're 7-0. You're to Auburn at that point. Your game's defined by the final 5 games. So to lose 4 out of 5, I don't see that happening. So I think it's a lot of it's riding on that Ole Miss game. But it's an easy over for me. I don't know if I quite see them as a quote unquote national championship contender, but I do think they'll be a really good regular season team this year, assuming they stay healthy across the board.
Right. And when I reference not the same on the road, I was going Texas, not LSU there. Texas played at LSU. Yeah, but still. All right, so we're all over?
Yes.
John's debating.
It's a reluctant over.
I'm kind of the same way though. It's because it's 8.5. It's almost similar to what Greg said about Alabama. Like I feel like they're making this easy, but I feel like they're doing it for different reasons.
But I also feel like last year was the one year that Lane didn't have that what are you doing loss. He came close a couple times.
He also had that program under his control for multiple years.
And he
to
did.
Be able to get to that point. So
the other thing I'd say too, though, like you got to remember when it comes to evaluating betting lines, betting totals, like you have to factor in the court of public opinion. Everyone thinks Alabama is going to fall off a cliff. Like everyone's down on the Tide in the court of public opinion nationally, not necessarily locally. But nationally, everyone's down on the Tide and saying DeBoer doesn't have this and they don't have that. They're young here. They don't have that. They're missing this guy, what have you. Meanwhile, the sentiment around LSU is like, oh my gosh, it's never been better. Look how good they are. And yet they sit with the same win total. So to me, like if you were trying to take the sharp side of both, you'd probably take Bama on the over and LSU on the under if you're trying to take the sharp side. But I don't feel confident enough in either going under their numbers at this point. I think the rosters are too solid.
All right. So we've done Georgia, Texas, Bama, LSU. There are a couple more that are right on that. It feels like the 8.5 mark is the one that gives you headaches.
Yep.
That you just kind of look at and be like, oh, probably, maybe, don't know, possibly. There are a few more that are there or close to there or they're in some books. We'll discuss those when we come back next right here on Jocks. Win total's a part of the conversation right now. SEC, we can move to other conferences after that. 205-834-9450. Georgia, Texas, Bama, LSU, already on the docket. We haven't had an under consensus yet. I think one of us went under on one team, and that has been it. So a lot of over so far, which is kind of goes against the conversation that we had earlier in the week of we feel like there's going to be this logjam in the middle of the league in which a lot of teams are going to be close to one another and might not be able to reach that pinnacle of the overs that the books have them on right now. We did leave you with Texas A&M at 8.5. Thursday, August 27th, 8:24 right here on Jocks. Watch live on YouTube. Search Jocks945. This is a trickier proposition, in my opinion, because I think the team just has a few more question marks. The Texas A&M schedule at 8.5 win total will go Missouri State, Arizona State, Kentucky, at LSU, Arkansas, at Mizzou, Citadel, at Bama, at South Carolina, Tennessee, at Oklahoma, Texas. Whew. Do they get over 8.5, Greg?
It's a beast. I think they do. I have them at 9-3. I think a LSU loss on the road is understandable. A loss at Bama on the road is understandable. Be careful in that South Carolina game. I think that's a tricky one. I can see them getting Tennessee. At Oklahoma will be very tough, and we know Texas will be tough as well. So I have them losing 3. So I take the over, but I don't feel real confident about it.
It wouldn't be one I would suggest, and I think I'd be with you, but I'll say this. Remember, they get LSU on the road after LSU goes to Ole Miss.
Yes.
It's the spot that you want, okay? I think the Arizona State game is much more important than anyone's giving them credit for. You can't slip up there.
Sure.
But I think they're going to be 4-0 because I love the spot of getting LSU where they're getting them. You got the Southwest Classic next with Arkansas. Then you're at Missouri. Is Ahmad Hardy going to be back? What's that defense going to look like? They've actually looked really good against Missouri the last few years. So
yeah, I like them there.
And then Citadel. So are we realistically talking about a team, whether we go win totals or not, on October the 17th, it could be 7-0?
Could be 6-1, probably more than likely, though.
Dropping the LSU game?
Somewhere. They're dropping one. I don't know.
Kentucky, Arkansas, Missouri? I
think LSU's the most likely because I don't think that LSU is a team that will play super emotionally charged. So I give them a slight advantage from an emotional standpoint when dealing with Ole Miss. But I would probably lean towards LSU in that game on the road.
Yeah, but there's a real chance they're sitting there at 7-0. Then
Definitely.
you're at Bama, so you need 2 more. At Bama, at South Carolina, Tennessee, at Oklahoma, Texas. If you've built the momentum of being 7-0, you can get 2 of those. And I don't think it just has to be South Carolina or Tennessee. But you look at John Mateer, a little bit of hero ball. If that hadn't repaired itself, if that offensive line's not where it needs to be, A&M can draw it up to be able to get back there. If the Texas O-line's not repaired, A&M can draw it up to get back there. Freshman quarterback coming to Kyle Field against that defense in Tennessee, you got a chance to be a problem there. South Carolina offensive line hadn't been good in a long time. Even though you got a quarterback that can elude and a new coordinator, that one could be problematic. If the Bama offensive line's not repaired, there are ways to not just say, well, they'll get South Carolina and Tennessee. There's a couple more of those games in there that they can get. I think it's an over for me. I'm reluctant to do it, but if I had to go one way or the other, that's it. Damien?
Over.
Okay. John?
I go under.
Okay. So you listened to our conversation yesterday about A&M trending down for some folks.
There's a couple of these that I'm reluctant on, and
what version of Marcel Reed are we going to get?
If I'm not high on the team, you know what? I'll take the under, be happy with that, rather than go through the anxiety of a whole season of hoping they get the over.
Okay. Ole Miss has kind of been all over the board. It's a was that the Rubik's Cubelic?
That's a little early.
We hadn't got any data yet.
I don't think we have the data for that yet.
We ain't got it yet.
But, man, I mean, I like the fact that, AI is finding ways for it to go ahead and hack into our system and be a part of the show here before the season even begins.
I mean, if AI is already answering your text messages, this is the next evolution. It's not surprising.
You can find Ole Miss at different spots in different places. Currently, via Kalshi, 8 or more wins, 64% of the people say that they will accomplish that. 41% say 9 or more. 34% say 10 or more. I'm going to go with 8.5 for Ole Miss right now, which is what I think it is at most places. If you can find it at 7.5, destroy the over. That's just me. Other people might not be on board with that, but that's where I would go. Let's go 8.5, Greg, and say that that's where we need to be with Ole Miss on where they will potentially be over or under. Louisville to open the season in Nashville. Charlotte, LSU, at Florida, at Vandy. Mizzou, at Texas. Auburn, Georgia, at Oklahoma. Wofford, Mississippi State. Over or under 8.5 for Ole Miss?
Man, I think you're all over it. I mean, I think that Louisville game's harder than you realize. And if you look at Brahms' track record as a giant killer, like, he's excellent in big games. He'll lose a couple he shouldn't, but you give him a chance to topple a playoff contender, like, he's all in. And he's done it over and over and over again over the course of his tenure as a head coach, not just at Louisville, but at Purdue prior to. So I think that's a dangerous game. Be careful. I think the LSU game is, of course, the one that everyone has circled. I think it's a must-win for Ole Miss. That's the way I've felt from the get-go. Emotionally, it's a necessary evil for them to win that game. So it's an all-in type of performance, which means Florida's a tough one. I think you lose Florida. Very, very tough game there. At Vandy, think you can bounce back there. I like your chances against Missouri. I do not like you against Texas on the road. I think you got a real good chance against Georgia, but not a great chance by a stretch, a coin flip at best. I don't love you against Oklahoma at the end of the year. So you're right on it. I'd probably lean slight under if you told me I had to play it at 8.5.
Damian?
Over.
John?
It feels like an under.
It's over.
It's over.
Now, here's the thing. I agree with everything Greg said about the Louisville game. 100%. Like, you got talent in at quarterback with a guy that has made quarterbacks great everywhere he's been. Cleve Lubin and that defensive line are going to be able to get at you. I actually think the Ole Miss offensive line can offset that. They're not going to be great, elite talent-wise, but they're going to be good for what they need. They're going to be solid. I might creep them into the top 5 offensive lines in the SEC right now, but that's an indictment on the rest of the offensive lines in the SEC more so than it is Ole Miss is just that good.
They're going to be mowing people over? That's what you're saying?
Not 95 Nebraska. However, good for what they need. Here's the deal with the Louisville game. If they lose that game, rip your ticket up. It doesn't matter. They ain't going over, so it doesn't matter. Just throw it out. Like, smash your phone, delete the app. It's over, whatever it is. We're not having a conversation about them going over 8.5 if they lose that game. But they can get that game. And if they do, I'm with you on the LSU-Florida split. That kind of looks like just the natural occurrence of what will take place. You get LSU, you probably lose that Florida game. You lose LSU, then you have to get the Florida game. You go down there, maybe you figure it out. Even though I love Summerall, get them in that spot. I look at it this way. Let's just give them the Louisville game right now, and I'm not saying that you just give it to them. I'm saying that's what we're doing.
No, I'm with you.
Louisville, Charlotte, Vandy, Mizzou, Auburn, Wofford, Mississippi State puts you at 7. Okay? So
Love
you
it.
need 2 of LSU, Florida, Texas, Georgia, Oklahoma. I think you can get 2 of those.
You can get 2 of those. You can get 2 of those.
So it's an over for me because I think this is going to be a better football team than people are going to give them credit for. And we have not learned our lesson watching Indiana the last 2 years. And to be honest with you, a couple of other teams that have advanced in the playoffs of good team play still wins. Like, Miami had a lot of draft picks and a lot of talent, but they won in the playoffs because they were a team. They knew situational football. Carson Beck didn't go out there and play hero ball. Their offensive coordinator learned from his own mistakes in a game in College Station and altered things to the point in which it allowed them to be in it late and then go steal a win. Like, they won because they were a team. I think Ole Miss is going to be a good team because they have continuity. They have things they've been through together. They've overcome adversity together. They're good on both of the lines of scrimmage. They have playmakers at running back, playmakers at quarterback, playmakers at tight end. Greg, I just think the team is going to be good. But we're getting all consumed with this team has that quarterback, this team has that wide receiver. Okay, good. I think Ole Miss is going to be a good team. And by the way, I think the guy leading the charge knows how to do that. So it's an over for me for Ole Miss.
Oh, you convinced me. I'm over. I changed my mind.
My biggest question, I love Ole Miss. My biggest question with Ole Miss for sure is the wide receivers and the offensive coordinator. I think John David Baker's going to be good. I just don't know if he's going to be as good as Charlie Weiss. I think Charlie Weiss Jr. was a dude. I think he was
Still
big
is.
time, and will continue to be. So I think that's a legitimate question mark. And while I like Jonte Cook, while I like Gibbs, I believe is the other guy's name, both from Gill, whatever his name is, the guy from Syracuse. Like, there's things I like about their personnel they brought in. I don't know if they have a Daquan Wright. Like, I think Luke Haas is fine. I don't know if he's quite as fluid as Daquan Wright. Not that he's the most fluid guy in the world, but he was pretty sporty.
I think Caleb Odom has taken ownership of being a tight end now. I think that'll help him. That'll make him a little bit different.
That'll help him. I think he was a good pass catcher and disappeared when you thought he was going to play a pretty decent role on the team early. So we'll see. I think the wide receivers. I think defensively they're better at all three levels.
Yeah.
The offense to me is.
You still have Deuce Alexander. The Auburn staff raved about Horatio Fields. Now, it never turned into anything like on the actual field there. I get that, but that's another one that could potentially help. Dude, Cam Miller did some things at Kentucky at times where you were like, this kid could be a star, but then he just kind of went away a little bit. So he's somebody who I really think can help them. So I don't feel – and by the way, based on what we're hearing out of camp, they could have some real quarterback depth. Maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe.
Oh, yeah. Don't you start. Don't you start.
I'm just saying.
Don't you start. But I like where you're going.
Saying.
I'm just saying. Don't you start, but I like where you're going.
If I asked you right now, we're sticking with 8.5. Level of confidence, you have to take one of the overs, one of the other, A&M or Ole Miss. Which one are you taking?
Ole Miss.
I'm taking Ole Miss. I think Greg's going A&M.
I trust their quarterback more, and they have more back along the fronts. So, you got to take Ole Miss there probably. I just think Ole Miss's schedule's a little tougher than A&M's.
Yeah.
Right.
The other thing I would say is I am genuinely concerned about the emotional toll, regardless of the outcome of that LSU game. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. Like, that is going to be an emotionally charged game. Like, probably more emotionally charged. Seriously, name a more emotionally charged game than
Saban going back to Baton Rouge would be the only one I can even think of, honestly.
Okay, 08 maybe, and that fine.
But that didn't even have all the intertwining that this one does.
Yeah.
Like, not even close, really.
I'd say the only other one that was as emotionally charged was Ryan Day against Sharon Moore in 2024. Like, I think that was a remarkably emotionally charged game.
Yeah.
And Ohio State played so flat as a result of it, and they looked awful. They ended up winning the national championship. But they played terrible because of how emotional that game was. And I just think there's going to be so much disappointment amongst the Ole Miss fan base in defeat. If it happens, and I might not. I lean Ole Miss in that game, believe it or not. So there'd be so much disappointment that I just don't want that to fester.
I'm just telling you, I think it's more dangerous. I think it's more dangerous if they win it.
Really?
I'm going to throw this out right now. If Ole Miss beats LSU at home, there's no way they beat Florida the next week.
Stamping it.
Right now. Put it in stone. They will not close the library until Thursday.
I think they have to.
That's a great
legally
point.
In Oxford, but
not that week. They won't. Not that week. Those red trash cans will be in the Grove the entire week. They won't remove them. They'll just leave them there, even though it's in a road game the next week. They'll just stay. Like, I think it'll be 10 times harder to bounce back and prepare for a Florida team that's going to want to punch you in the face after beating LSU than it would be if you lost that game saying, we got to wake our rear ends up and go play a team that can beat us again. That's just me. Because you've had an entire offseason of everything Greg's talking about going into that game. If you lose it, I think it can piss you off enough to be back. If you win it, think about where we are as sort of a young society right now. Think about how many people are going to be telling them how great they are if they win that game. And if they had already won the Louisville game. I'm just telling you
It's
right
fair.
now, if they win that LSU game, they will not win at Florida.
Especially if Florida loses to Auburn the week before.
Double desperation. And you know what
Yeah.
happens then?
Yeah.
Because I don't, but something.
The old double desperation game. Factor that into the room.
Might as well be
please.
Houston, Birmingham.
The hate is real.
Old
The
DDG.
double desperation derby.
All right, this is fun. We're going to continue talking win totals. They start to get complicated here in a minute.
Yes.
We got Oklahoma, Tennessee, Florida, Missouri, Auburn, South Carolina, Vandy, Kentucky, Mississippi State, Arkansas. We'll discuss them all next on Jocks. All right, talking win totals in college football. It's 8:42, Thursday, August 27th, right here on Jocks. About to get into some that are going to be a little more difficult here. You want to be a part of the show? 205-834-9450. That'll get you in. Let's go to Oklahoma now. One that also varies a little bit depending on where you are, which one you're looking at. We're going to go 8.5, though, because I think that's where it is in the majority of places. If you can get it 7.5, once again, absolutely blister the over if that's the case. Oklahoma at 8.5. The schedule reads UTEP at Michigan, New Mexico, at Georgia, Texas, Kentucky, at Mississippi State, South Carolina, at Florida, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, at Missouri. Oklahoma has its warts. Oklahoma has its dents. Oklahoma has its concerns. But, Greg, the main thing I see with the majority of the teams on this schedule, they have more of those than Oklahoma does. As far as concerns, questions, things that may not allow them to be what everybody believes that they can be. Oklahoma 8.5, over under.
I lean over. I do think the schedule's very difficult. While I agree with you, I think at Michigan, tough game. You get that one, you're cooking with gas. At Georgia, going to be very tough. Really good matchup for both teams. I think it's just a good quality matchup.
Freaking bloodbath.
A total bloodbath. Following that up 2 weeks later with the neutral site at Texas, I like your chances against Texas. I don't think it's a guarantee, but I think you got a good, solid chance there. So if you can somehow figure out a way to start 4-1 through that 5-game slate, you're in a really good position. But there is a real possibility of starting 2-3. It's possible. I'm not saying it's likely. I think it's possible. So 4-1 has to be the barometer through 5 games if this over is going to cash.
I think my biggest concern is, what's Michigan going to try to do? They're going to try to bloody your nose, right? Georgia going to try to bloody your nose.
Yeah.
And we talked about those 2 games in the first 4 weeks of the season. Now, you get a week off before you go play Texas. But I look at this schedule as highly dependent on what other teams are. If this schedule is just about Oklahoma, it's an over. And I think it's a pretty easy over. The problem is, what is Mississippi State going to be on October 24th? What is South Carolina going to be on Halloween? What is Florida going to be on November the 7th? What is Missouri going to be all the way down on November 28th? We don't know what those teams are going to be in the openers, much less what they're going to be at the end of the season.
Yeah.
They could all be ahead of schedule. If Ahmad Hardy's ripping and the defense doesn't fall off on the front 7, that's a problem game.
Yes.
If Florida's offensive line is working and Aaron Philo is distributing the football, not making mistakes, and Brad White's defense kind of gets it, that is an issue going down to the swamp on November the 7th. What if Lenore Sellers and Kendall Browse are just ripping? That's a problem. If Mississippi State's offensive line is corrected and Kamario Taylor's making quick decisions, not turning it over, big problem. That's a lot of questions. I get that. But I have more confidence. My only question about Oklahoma, I'm going to be honest with you guys, is offensive line. That's it.
Fair. Yeah, totally fair.
And guess what? I just described 80% of the league.
Other than Ole Miss, everyone else has problems. I agree, yeah.
I don't have questions about Georgia's O-line. I don't have questions about Tennessee's O-line. But every other team in the league, we could almost hinge a 2-game swing on their offensive line. I really believe that.
Yeah. Totally fair. Totally fair. The other thing I would say about Oklahoma is they have a lot of pathways to victory. The one question remains, and I think it's a totally fair one, are they a track meet team? Can they win a game like that on an unusually difficult day for their defense? For whatever reason, they're just not, because a lot of their stuff is very aggressive. And on one day, Venables just guessing wrong. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes you get got. Can their offense score 35? The way it was constructed last year to go and get one, I don't know about that. Is it in there this year with the weapons they've added? Hopefully, more so than a year ago. But I don't know. I think I love Oklahoma this year. I just think the schedule's as hard as there is in the sport. I really think it's one of the top 2 or 3 most difficult schedules. And if they can get to 9-3, to me, they're a no doubt playoff team with the strength of schedule argument in their favor.
I think they get to 9.
Yeah.
Damien?
Yeah, I'm going over.
John?
That's a reluctant, but I go under.
Okay. We're going to play this game again. More confidence in over 8.5. You pick one. Texas A&M, Ole Miss, or Oklahoma. Greg?
Oklahoma.
Damien?
Ole Miss.
John?
Yeah, it's Ole Miss.
It's Ole Miss for me, too. All right, Tennessee sits at 7.5. We know the questions. We've also outlined some of the confidence we have in this team, where it'll be, what it'll be, why you should have certain confidence in what Tennessee potentially is going to be able to be this year. Furman at Georgia Tech, Kennesaw State, Texas, Auburn, at Arkansas, Bama at South Carolina, Kentucky at A&M, LSU at Vandy. Over 7.5, under 7.5 for the Vols, Greg.
Oh, it's such a good number. I lean slight over. Don't feel super confident about it, but it's mainly because I think they're going to be more responsible on defense, even if their personnel isn't where it needs to necessarily be. And I think they're going to have an electric quarterback that might be able to upset someone, but I don't know if they can avoid the upset somewhere, a la at South Carolina. You know, or even at Georgia Tech early in the season. Like I think there's a couple of tricky spots. One, they're going to lose a game they shouldn't, but they're going to win a game they shouldn't too.
That's fair.
And I just don't know where those are coming.
I'm going to go under. I think it's going to be at 7. I would not be surprised if it's 8. I'd probably be surprised if it's 9. I think Josh is a good coach. I just think depth on the defensive line scares me. I think depth at running back's a little bit concerning. The wide receivers staying healthy is something that needs to happen, has to happen. And then you put a freshman quarterback in there. You're not as deep at tight end as you've been the last couple of years. Also, Texas on defense is going to give you some what in the world looks. Bama is going to be more aggressive up front on defense. South Carolina is going to give you things you've never seen. Texas A&M is going to give you things you've never seen. LSU is going to give you things you've never seen. Vanderbilt's going to be really good on defense. Arkansas is going to give you some wild looks with Ron Roberts. Like that with a freshman quarterback concerns me. Just the looks you're going to get defensively from the Auburns, the A&Ms, the LSUs, the Texas defenses, South Carolina's, and what Clayton White's going to dial up for you. I have concerns about just what the defenses they face are going to look like with a freshman quarterback. So while I agree with you that they're going to steal 1 or 2, I think there's a good chance they give 1 or 2 away. Damian, over under 7.5.
I'm with Greg, a slight over.
John?
Over. I don't like it, but over.
Okay. We have to take a break, but just a quick lesson, and this is self-imposed also for everyone here. Listen closely. They can't all go over. Okay?
Yeah, they can.
No, they cannot.
In the preseason, they can.
They cannot all go over.
Yeah, they can.
It is not
You have
possible.
fun picking an under in the preseason.
I just
do
did.
That. You go ahead and do that.
I just did. There may be more to come.
And you're going to get torched this day they win that 8th game. When they're 8-0, you're going to hear about it.
You're right. I'll probably hear about it when they're 1-1. Still.
Oh, my.
All right. We will. I didn't mean Tennessee. I just meant anyone in general. All right. Let's get to a couple others next on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 8:54 Thursday, August 27th. Try to hammer one more out right now, and I'm going to make it a hard one. Florida's at 7.5. We're doing win totals here. Over, under. We've mentioned the Gators a couple of times in other games this year that they have and what it may look like for them. But we haven't necessarily taken a dive into the Florida schedule in this practice, and will they get over 7.5? FAU, Campbell, at Auburn, Ole Miss, at Mizzou, South Carolina, at Texas, Georgia, Oklahoma, at Kentucky, Vandy, at Florida State. Greg, over under 7.5 for the Gators.
I think they start 4-0. I think they start 5-0.
God, you hate Auburn so much.
I don't. I like Auburn. I just like Florida better. I think their talent's better. And I think they were better last year. Just didn't result in a better record. So I think you got a chance sitting there at undefeated, maybe one loss going into that game against Texas on the road, which I think is a loser. I think the Georgia game, very, very tough. I don't like you in that game. So now at most I got you at 3 losses with 4 games to play. You got Oklahoma at home, at Kentucky, Vandy, and Florida State on the road. I think you can go 4-0 potentially, but I lean towards losing one of those 3. So I think you're looking at a team that loses 4 games. So I like the over.
I would lean over here as well. I think Florida is in a very similar situation to Auburn. Survive October. Like, just do not let the wheels completely fall off in October and you'll be okay. Stack a couple of wins, get a game or 2 in October, finish strong. You do that, you're ahead of schedule. That's Alex Golish and John Summerall. I mean, their October is at Mizzou, South Carolina, at Texas, Georgia. Survive October, and you hit the over. That should be a T-shirt for both Auburn and Florida fans this year. Back with the Coach Wim Sanderson next on Jocks.